Hello everyone. This is a sequel to my last video. My name is Chao, Kenneth Chao, or you can call me. This is a sequel to my last video. Last time I stopped at the my discovery, the chronology of my discovery of the Planck-sized black holes in the center of a hydrogen atom. Why the hydrogen atom? If you take a look at the periodical table, the Mendeleev's periodic table, how many elements are there altogether? There are 118. No, wrong. There's only one element, which is the hydrogen atom. Although there are 118 elements altogether in the periodic table, all of them are various compositions of a hydrogen atom. For example, the hydrogen atom is one hydrogen atom. The helium atom is 2 hydrogen atoms plus 2 neutrons. The lithium atom is 3 hydrogen atoms plus 3 neutrons. And the beryllium atom is 4 hydrogen atoms plus 4 neutrons. The boron atom is 5 hydrogen atoms plus 5 neutrons. The carbon atoms is 6 hydrogen atoms plus 6 neutrons, and so on, so forth. And we can take the higher ones. The iron atoms is 26 hydrogen atoms plus 26 neutrons. We can take the highest in the naturally occurring element. It's uranium atom. Uranium atom is 92 hydrogen atoms plus 146 neutrons. From about the iron atom onwards, the numbers of neutrons exceed the number of protons. I'll explain what is neutrons. What are neutrons later on in more details. But for this, for the present purpose, neutrons, in my understanding, is just compressed hydrogen atoms. They're compressed by gravity into from the ordinary proton, which is ordinary hydrogen atom, which is a proton with the electrons on the outside. The electrons are actually compressed by the shear force of gravity into the proton itself, so that it appears to have no charge, but it betrays itself. The one thing is it still has a magnetic moment. Yes, it still has the magnetic moment. We know that magnetic moment comes together hand in hand with the electric field. So if there's still the magnetic moment, that means there's still the electric field. But that electric field is compressed inside the proton itself, so it does not appear. For this present purpose, we know that. Just have to notice that there's nothing different between protons and neutrons, because neutrons are just a proton with its outside electric field compressed, or electron compressed inside into the the proton itself by the sheer force of gravity. And that's what we have known for the present moment. But how can I prove this? That neutrons is compressed? I will talk in more details later. But for the present purpose, you just have to know that just have to take it for granted, as I said it, that there's nothing different between the proton and the neutron. And so that means what does it mean? It means although there are 118 elements altogether in the periodic table, there's actually only one element, which is the hydrogen atom or the proton. The neutron is not different from the proton. The neutron is just a proton with its outside electric field compressed by the sheer force of gravity into the proton itself. And so that's why, and that explains why H bar is, or H is Planck's constant or the reduced constant is such ubiquitous, such a ubiquitous thing, because there's nothing other than hydrogen atoms, if this analogy is correct, all around us. The air we breathe is composed of hydrogen atoms. We ourselves, our bodies ourselves, are also composed of hydrogen atoms. Everything from iron, from concrete, from water, or everything is just composed of hydrogen atoms. That's why H bar becomes such ubiquitous and universal physical constant. So that's the explanation for H bar, the ubiquitous nature of H bar, and the universal constant nature of the H bar. So the next thing is why, how? If I will ask if it's there is a Planck size black holes within it at the very center of the hydrogen atom, as I said. Why? How come how it's formed? And when it is formed, where it is formed? Well, as I said, as is said by the contemporary scientists, that the proton, the lifespan of a proton is 10 to the power 29 years, which is far greater than the age of the universe. So within such a large lifespan, a long lifespan, it can be formed at any time within that period. And it may even be now forming as I talk to you. It's everywhere. And where it's formed? Everywhere. It's just all material particles are composed of hydrogen atoms. So there's no limit to the location of where it's formed. But so it is what was the most likely place it's formed? Well, it's formed in the vastness of the space. How do I say that? Because it's the most abundant element in the universe. Astronomers will tell you that the huge amount of hydrogen atoms in the vastness of space or the universe. And so we are often given images in astronomy books of huge hydrogen clouds. The most famous of which, of course, the Horsehead Nebula, and also the Eagle's Nebula and Fingers Nebula, and so on. they are tens of thousands of light years in diameters, and they are everywhere. Actually, the recent observation of the astronomers say that there's a huge hydrogen clouds in the vicinity of the Milky Way. And then even there's a saying that there's a hydrogen breach, a breach of hydrogen connecting the galaxies of Andromeda and the Triangulum, the huge distance of tens of thousands of light years of hydrogen connecting the two galaxies. So you see, it's everywhere and in the universe. So that the best thing is to explain how this hydrogen form is best to follow some astronomy observations and findings of the astronomers, and I will refer to the books, chapter 2 and chapter 3 of this book. This by Abraham Lowe of the Harvard University, the astronomer, professor of astronomy. The chapters 2 and chapter 3 of this book is composed of from page 8 to page 63, and that is, as I say, that's 55 pages of, and with numerous complex equations. So I do not intend to set them out, except that I've only give a very brief extract. In some places, Professor Lowe gives some simple, brief explanation of, and I will just extract those for you for this purpose, present purpose. And I would say that in a nutshell, Professor Loeb said that this in this book called the how did the first stars and galaxies form, he described due to mass density fluctuations, cold dark matter collapsed into ordinary matter. Hydrogen is, I will just quote page 15 of the book. Consider, for simplicity, the background of a marginally bound flat universe which is dominated by matter. In such a background, only a slight enhancement in density is required to exceed the critical density, which is denoted by log C, critical density, which is equal to 3h capital H square divided by 8 pi g. G is a Newton's constant, and E, denoting energy, is equal to half v square. V is a speed square, times bracket 1 minus omega, which where omega is equal to a ratio of the log to log C. The log means that the log of the density of that particular location divided by the critical density. is that because of Birkhoff's theorem, a spherical region that is denser than the mean will behave as if it is part of a closed universe, and increase its density contrast with time, while an underdense spherical region will behave as if it is part of an open universe and appear more vacant with time relative to the enhanced background, as illustrated in the figure. The figure referred to is this one, which I draw out. That's the ordinary density of matter with the mean density, and suddenly a part of it becomes enhanced, over-enhanced, and then it reaches the critical density, and then once it reaches density, you bounce back, and the part between these parts which reach the critical density will just collapse onto it, becomes a halo. This one becomes a halo. With those parts between them now become void. So this is from the Professor Lowe's book, which can be referred to. This schematic, what I just showed you is a schematic illustration of the growth of the perturbations to collapsed halos through gravitational instability. Once the overdense regions exceed the threshold density, the contrast above unity, they turn round and collapse to form halos. The material that makes the halos, what material originated in the voids, would separate the halos. This is a brief explanation from Professor Lowe, astronomer, about this how the likely cause of how these Planck-sized black holes may form. In fact, of course, Professor Lowe did not refer to Planck-sized black holes. He did not refer them to them. He just referred to this is a possible mechanism for formation of the dark matter, which he referred repeatedly in his books. Dark matter, the cold dark matters, the cold dark matter, and then will continue to collapse. That they will form into the Planck-sized black hole is my own postulation, my own positing. Only I posited that this will eventually form the Planck-sized black holes. This, of course, as I said earlier, needs to be proved. And what I would say to this mechanism or the process of formation of Planck-sized black holes, that you have to understand that it's a simple equation from Einstein, E is to mc squared, and immediately corollary from E is to mc squared is m is equal to E divided by c squared. That means that actually nothing different between E and M, and energy and mass. That the relation between what I say is mass and what is energy is that energy is c squared times larger than mass, and mass is c squared times smaller than energy. That's the only difference between energy and mass. Otherwise, there's nothing to distinguish between mass and energy. For example, if I say the Planck mass is 2.177 times 10 to the power minus 8 kilogram, then it means the energy corresponds to is 1.957 times 10 to the power 9 joules. And for example, if I say that there is a mass of 10 to the power minus 42, that's very small mass, kilograms, then the energy corresponds to is 2.419 times 10 to the power minus 25 joules. That's mass is c squared times less than the energy. Or that's only relation between mass and energy. And what I will add to is to Abraham Lowe's description of how the cold dark, he only described how cold dark matter derive from this perturbations in density of energy. What I will add is that there's the first law of thermodynamics. The first law of thermodynamics states that if there are two adjoining systems of different energy, which includes heat energy, the energy from the system with higher energy density will flow towards the one with the lower energy until the two systems are of the equal energy. And then the flow of energy will stop. I think this is a mechanism how what Professor Lowe described as the process of formation of the cold dark matter from the perturbations of density, and what I've described is the process which will eventually form the Planck-sized black holes. In Professor Lowe's spoke, he set out also a number of equations. For example, the Virial radius is a 1.5 bracket, the mass divided by 10 to the power 8 the solar masses, and then to the cube root, all to the cube root, times 1 plus Ez, which is the redshift, by 10, and the square root of it, of kilo parsec. This is the Virial radius. And then they also describe as the corresponding circular velocity. The velocity, or critical velocity, is equal to g, the Newton constant, times mass of the gas or the material or anything, divided by the Virial radius, and square root of it, the whole to the square root. And so it's equal to 117 times m, the mass of the material, divided by 10 to the power 8 solar masses, all to the cube root, times 1 plus Z redshift divided by 10 all to the square root so many kilometers per second. And there's also a virial temperature, which is the temperature equal to mu times mp times vc squared divided by 2k, where mu is the mean molecular weight and mp is the proton mass, and then is equal to 1.04 times 10 to the power 4 times mu over 0.6 times m divided by 10 to the power 8 solar masses, all to the square root to the cube root of the square of this sum, and times 1 plus Z divided by 10 times K, which K is the temperature in Kelvin. All this, and then the halo, what that means, mention the halo. That's now by the collapse back of the energy which reaches the threshold critical density is EB. EB's energy, EB is denoted by EB, so half gm squared divided by r virial, the virial radius, is equal to 2.9 times 10 to the power 53 times m to the power 10 to the power 8 solar masses, and then to the power 5 over 3 bracket 1 plus Z times divided by 10. So many ergs. Ergs is equal to 10 millionth of a joule. And then this is the formation of the cold dark matter, as Professor Lowe described. These are the examples of the least complex equation which I mentioned. The more complex equations are literally more complex than this. So I don't intend to set out of this view. Now this is some of the explanation of the about the how this Planck size black holes will be formed, or in theory will be formed. I wonder whether you know about this. I think some which is called the Virial theorem, which is that it is represented by equation the integral of the pressure of any material, of gas, of anything, divided by log the density of that gas or material, integral from between 0 and m. M is the mass of that material. This integral with respect to dm. dm is the mass, just the mass. Is because pressure has the pressure is a function of mass. Log is a function, the density is a function of mass, and times 3 is equal to the integral from between 0 and m to the maximum mass of that material gas time of the integral of the integrand gm divided by r dm. that is also integrally in respect to the mass. These are equal. This is a equation representing the Weyl theorem. And this is actually the situation under which a lump of gas or other material with a mass, total mass m, capital M, and would evolve how it evolves, and it will be then evolve into the critical this is my own theorem. Under this evolution of this Weyl theorem of this mass, it will eventually evolve into 2gm divided by r is c squared. That is, this is the ultimate outcome of this process. I think I've finished about my H bar. How is my reasoning as how H bar represents a Planck-sized black hole. We know the H bar is equal to Planck mass times Planck length times c is the angular momentum of the hydrogen atoms, and it is as hydrogen atoms, as just explained, is the only element, whereas the 118 elements in the periodic table is the only element actually present. All the other elements are just various compositions of hydrogen atoms. So that's how come H is ubiquitous, and how come H is a universal physical constant. One thing I just have to add is that in 2006, when I first had this Eureka moment, Eureka ideas, I was very excited and very impulsive, and I just wrote an article about it. And then in the article, I called it Zhou's black hole cosmic theory, and sent copies of these articles to the famous the several most famous scientists, including Stephen Hawking and John Mueller, and a number of organizations. And I also tried to get the article published in Nature and in the New Scientist, but I failed. I did not receive any reply from any of them, and then also the Nature and New Scientist has rejected my request for publications. But I did not give up, and I continued my research until about 2018, when I had another Eureka moment. I realized that why gravity, the electromagnetic force, the weak force and the strong force are actually one and the same physical phenomenon. And why Einstein's theory of general relativity is actually in substance just is the same as Schrödinger equation in the basic equation of the quantum mechanics. That's when in 2017, about 2017, 2018, I read and studied the wave theory of Louis de Broglie, who posited this wave theory of matter in 1922. But then, now when I study it, I combined it, I coupled this wave theory to my own black theory of matter. Then I understand why the four forces of nature, gravity, electromagnetic force, weak force and strong force, actually one and the same phenomena, physical phenomena, and why quantum mechanics, at least the basic equation, Schrödinger equation in quantum mechanics, is actually in substance the same thing as the field equation of Einstein in the general theory of relativity. That's what I reached in about the year 2018. Before I go into that, as I promised, I would first try to demonstrate why the neutron is just a compressed form of the proton. How I demonstrate this? It is so. And there are two ways to demonstrate this neutron is actually just a proton with its external electron or electric field compressed into the proton itself. One way is by balancing of the energy. One particular interaction is to be selected for this demonstration is the one in which the neutron decays back into a proton plus an electron plus an anti-neutrino. A balancing of this equation, or rather the opposite of it, and that is a proton with which is struck by an electron, and which it then turns into a neutron plus a neutrino, and this is what we call the electron capture or positive beta decay. The electron released during this beta decay, beta plus decay, or the electron decay capture is equal to the difference in the mass of the initial nucleus and the sum of the masses of the final nucleus and the electron. This material I got from a book by E.A. Nesterov, a Russian physicist, Fundamentals of Atomic and Nuclear Physics, and the 1998 edition. But I guess in that is delta E, the energy, the difference in energy, is equal to the proton's mass or energy minus the neutron's mass or energy minus the electron and also minus the electron neutrino, and all of this times c square. That's because we have to get the joule, the energy value in joule, times c square. So that means that it's 938.3 the mass of the energy or mass of the proton minus 939.6, that's the mass or energy of the neutron, plus 0.511 times 10 to the power 6 plus 2 times 10 to the power minus 6, which is the all of these units are in MeV, that's mega electron volts. That's the last one is the 2 times 10 to the power minus 6, the energy mass of the neutrino. All this is equal to 1.50432 times 10 to the power minus 10 minus 1.5052 times 10 to the power minus 10 plus 8.1862 plus 10 to the power minus 14 plus 2 times 10 to the power minus 25 expressed in joules, the total in joules, and it's just equal to 1.18138 times 10 to the power minus 13 joules, or roughly 1.2 times 10 to the power minus 13 joules. And this is the same energy which is released from the neutron beta decay during the reaction from the beta decay, beta negative decay. That's to say the neutron is turned into a proton and an electron, which I calculate in another page, and it just means that it's the same energy which is released by the neutron beta decay during the reaction from neutron to turn into a positive proton and an electron. In other words, the missing energy of the electron capture is just the energy it's the same energy as that is missing when a neutron becomes a proton and electron. In notation, is N naught becoming proton plus electron is absolutely equal to a proton plus an electron. When it becoming a neutron plus a neutrino, electron neutrino. That is to say, the energy required in turning a proton into a neutron is the same energy which is released when a neutron turns into a proton. That means that the same energy when a neutron is turned into a proton is the same energy which is required in turning a proton into a neutron. That explains why I say that's the neutron just a proton with its outside electric field, or the outside electron compressed into the proton itself, which I've done by my own calculations. The total energy in the emission of the electron neutrino 1 and 2, the coagulation by forcible collision of the E1, the electron and the proton, is equal to the total energy released in the reversed interaction, that is from the neutron to the proton to the electron plus the electron neutrino. But I also have another calculation which is which I do using the magnetic moment, which I've just described the magnetic moment, calculation of the magnetic moment. The neutron's magnetic moment the magnetic moment of a proton is equal to 2,793 mu naught. Which is equal to 2,793 times 5.051 times 10 to the power minus 27 joules per Tesla. This is the magnetic moment of the proton, and it is equal to 14.107 times 10 to the power minus 27 joule per Tesla. The minimum potential for generating X-ray is equal to 25 Ku, equal to 20 kilowatt, 25,000 kilowatts. So it is because we have this the equation joule divided by volt. 1 joule divided by 1 volt is equal to 1 coulomb. Therefore, 25,000 volts times Q coulomb is equal to N is equal to so many joules, N so many joules, because we have not decided Q, what's the value of Q yet. Substitute these two values into we got, now we calculate Q. Q is equal to Q coulombs, the value of Q coulombs is 14.107 times 10 to the power minus 27 divided by 25,000 is equal to the result, final result is equal to 5.643 times 10 to the power minus 31 coulombs. The magnetic moment of the proton, magnetic moment of the neutron, of the proton subtracting the magnetic moment of the neutron is 2,793 mu naught minus mu naught is the units of magnetic moment minus 1,913 mu naught is equal to 818 mu naught. That is the excess of the magnetic moment of proton over the magnetic moment of the neutron. This excess, 880 mu naught, we have to convert into joules per Tesla, and we have to multiply it by 5.051 times 10 to the power minus 27 joules per Tesla, and it's equal to 4.445 times 10 to the power minus 24 joules per Tesla. Within a hydrogen atom, proton, at the radius of about the Bohr radius, 5.29 times 10 to the power minus 11 meter. This is equal to 4. The value of the excess of the, this is the excess of the magnetic moment of the proton over the magnetic moment of the neutron is 4.445 times 10 to the power minus 24 joules per Tesla times the 5 times 10 to the power 11 Tesla is equal to 22.25 times 10 to the power minus 13 joules. And therefore, the change of magnetic moment from 2,793 mu naught in the proton to the magnetic moment of 1,913 mu naught in neutron. These values I got from the, as I said, from the books of E.A. Nesterov, the fundamentals of atomic and nuclear physics, in 1990 edition by E.A. Nesterov, a Russian physicist. And then the difference is equal to 22.225 times 10 to the power minus 13 joules. Therefore, the change of the magnetic moment from the proton 2,793 mu naught to that of the neutron, that is 1,913 mu naught, is equal to 2,793 mu naught plus 1,913 mu naught is equal to total is 4,706 mu naught. Why we have to add them? It's because it's, as I said, the magnetic moment in the proton and the magnetic moment in the neutron are opposite in direction. The magnetic moment are different. One is in positive direction, that in the negative direction. So from the change from 2793 mu naught in proton to 1913 mu naught in the neutron, because they are different interactions. The total have to be added together to get the total difference from positive 2793 to negative 1913. So the total change is 4706 mu naught. And so 4706 mu naught, you have to change it back to joules per Tesla. It's 5.051 times 10 to the power 27. Multiply it, so the result is equal to 2.377 times 10 to the power minus 23 joules. So within a hydrogen atom, proton, at the radius of 5.29 times 10 to the power minus 9 meter, it is equal to 2.377. That's the result which I just get, times 10 to the power minus 23 times 5 to the times 10 to the power 9 times 10 to the power 9 is equal to 11.835 times 10 to the power 4 minus 14. And so the final result is just 1.2 times 10 to the power 13 joules. It's the same with the energy that which I just worked out by calculating the balance of the energy when a neutron turns a proton and when a proton turns into a neutron. That's the same energy, 1.2 times 10 to the power minus 13 joules. So this is the corollary from this is that the change of magnetic moment from that of the proton equal to 2793 mu naught to that of a neutron equal to negative 1913, the opposite in sign. As I said, one is positive direction, one is negative direction. It's approximately equal to the kinetic energy stored in the neutron due to the compression, either in where is the compression? It's either in the core of a star like a sun, or in a hydrogen gas nebula like the Horsehead Nebula or the Eagle Nebula or the Fingers Nebula and so on. Any hydrogen nebula. That is my reason for why I say that the neutron is just the proton, ordinary proton, with its external electric field, or if you like, the electron compressed inside the proton itself, because the energy we calculated, they are equal. It's actually energy released from when a proton turns into a neutron, and when a neutron turns back into a proton, they are the same. And the magnetic moment, calculating from the magnetic moment, calculating from the energy difference, is the same. Both are equal to 1.2 times 10 to the power minus 13 joules. That's my reasoning, my own reasoning. Why they say the neutron is just a proton with its external electric field, or electron, if you call it, compressed into the proton itself. Next thing the next thing I will start on will be to how I say the four forces of nature: gravity, the electromagnetic force, the weak force, and the strong force are one and the same physical phenomena. It is all. I got this eureka moment is because when I couple, or we say I link the wave theory matter of Louis de Broglie into the black hole theory matter, which is invented by myself, not discovered by myself. The two things will explain. You have to if you have to explain how they are the same, you have to know the ultimate nature of what we are talking about before we can prove the same. That is, what we are talking about is that about the Planck-sized black hole in the middle of the hydrogen, in the very center of the hydrogen atom. Because of this atom, because of the wave theory of de Broglie, which is we come hand in hand with this Planck-sized black hole, such that the gravity and the electromagnetic force and the weak force and strong force actually the same thing. Once you realize that it's the Planck-sized black hole which operates at the center of the hydrogen atom, and which generates the wave theory of matter of Louis de Broglie, and you understand how they're the same thing. So I stop it until I begin my explanation and elaboration on this aspect in the next video.